I came to next to a patch of black ice on a cold sidewalk somewhere in downtown New Haven. I was drunk, I didn't know where I was, and felt completely lost. The only thing I knew to do in that moment was to sit there and start crying. Those nights were all too common for me in my early years of college. The thing that I most remember about that time was that I just couldn't sit with myself. I was scared. In addition to the normal angst of being a teenager, I was coming to terms with the fact that I was attracted to men. I wanted things to be different. I wanted to be different. And so I turned to whatever I could to get away. Alcohol, drugs, and my favorite and most acceptable distraction, work. But no matter what I did, inevitably, I would come back to myself, just as I had that night in New Haven. I woke up the next morning with the concerned face of a nurse hovering over me in Yale New Haven Hospital. When my dean caught wind of the fact that I had drank myself into a hospital bed, he immediately summoned me into his office. I was terrified. I thought that I had blown this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go to Yale, and that I was about to be in a lot of trouble. And yet, when I walked into his office that day, he greeted me with a big smile and a hug. And he just started asking me questions. Today I know that he could sense the deep existential angst that I was feeling at the time. And he recommended 2 books for me. One was a Christian-inspired book called Traveling Mercies. The other was a Buddhist-inspired book called Yoga and the Quest for the True Self. As I carried those 2 books outside of his office with me, he coyly said, "Hey, Vince, you might want to check out church as well." Life is hard. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we are absolutely overwhelmed by the demands of reality, where we can't cope, where the only thing we want to do is crawl out of our own skin or crawl underneath a rock somewhere. Where do we turn when we hit the black ice? When we fall, how do we pick ourselves back up? For many, the answer is religion. But for me at the time, that would have been quite a leap. You see, my religion during high school was the anti-religion. I was a card-carrying atheist, and I loved proving it to people around campus. In fact, I remember one afternoon, I got into a fight with 3 Christian friends and managed to bring all 3 of them to tears as I poked cold holes of logic in their Christian faith. Now, I can't say that I'm proud of the hurt that I caused my peers that day, but I can say that I do understand some of the angst that I felt towards religion at the time. After all, I'd been brought up in a strict Catholic upbringing and had experienced some of the most hurtful aspects of organized religion. When I was in school, I would get physically whipped for not being able to recite pieces of scripture or certain prayers. When the first signs of my attraction to men started to bubble up, I went under the worst type of ridicule from my friends in school, and a much more subtle, though no less hurtful form of repression at home, all grounded in the deep religious conviction that being gay was wrong and that I was broken. Yes, those tears that afternoon in high school, those were my revenge against religious zealotry. And yet, here I was, poring again over Buddhist text and Christian scripture, and actually starting to go to church again. You see, the pain that I was in at the time, that feeling of dislocation, of alienation from myself, was even worse than the pain that religion had inflicted upon me. It felt as if my whole world was just swirling around me, and I just needed something steady to grab onto. But if I was going to go down that path again, I was going to do it on my terms. Instead of adhering to any one type of religious system or dogma, I decided to cast a wide net and began a spiritual journey that took me from Christianity to Zen Buddhism to Native American animism and even the rationalism of Enlightenment thinkers. And over the course of that journey, I became a sort of spiritual omnivore, sampling different pieces and ideas and concepts from these religious philosophies in order to construct my own worldview and my own sense of meaning in the world. Over the course of that journey, there were 3 habits that I noticed that were common across each one of these philosophies that helped me pick myself back up, and I hope will be helpful for you regardless of where you are in your journey. The first is finding purpose in your experiences, seeking out the meaning and opportunities that can arise from even the most challenging circumstances. In Traveling Mercies, the book recommended by my dean, she talks about herself as a child of God, learning to walk on the earth, and sees each relapse, because she's a recovering alcoholic, as an opportunity for her to get back up stronger than before. Now, while I couldn't quite subscribe to the idea of God the Father and me as a child, I did like the idea that the universe would put these trials in my way as a way of testing me and making me stronger. And so the concept of a spiritual trial was one that I added to my spiritual plate. The second idea or habit that I saw was developing practices that help you honor that purpose. My first yoga instructor was a woman named Maureen, born straight out of the 60s. She was actually married to Michael Bolton for a while. Rest in peace. Through yoga, Maureen taught me how to listen to the language of my body and emotions, and taught me the power of breath to keep myself grounded in challenging situations. Instead of running in the way that I had in the past, away from these types of stressors, today, thanks to people like Maureen, I can hold myself in these moments and share space, even at a time like today, when I'm pretty nervous, as you can imagine. So that was a physical practice I added to my plate as well. The final habit that I saw is that of building community. My friend Eliza and I met in a Haitian dance class, shaking our booties, which, by the way, is another really fun spiritual practice that you should try sometime. And since then, Eliza and I have continued to laugh, dance, and cry together. Eliza is the type of spiritual buddy that I wish everybody had. When I fall, she helps pick me up. When things are going all right, she holds me accountable and isn't afraid to call me out on things. In an increasingly secular society, with all that's going on and the increasing stress and chaos that we find ourselves in, it's more and more important for us to know where to turn in those moments of duress. And yet, as we have an increasingly diverse and wide array of spiritual philosophies, the onus is increasingly on us to make sense of our own worldview and to make our own meaning out of life. Over the course of my journey, I learned to put my faith in 3 habits. The question that I leave with you today is where you'll put your faith. Thank you.